Have you ever had your entire life changed in a single moment? Like everything is fine for a moment and then, all of this is a lie. This actually happened to me. I took my child to the hospital for a standard inspection, and nothing serious happened. However, on my visit, I discovered something unexpected. I believed they were my kids. Aren't. Neither of them. It was discovered that my wife had been hiding the truth from me for years. I felt deceived, as if my whole existence had been torn apart. So, I made a decision. I took away what I knew she valued the most. And trust me, it wasn't easy. Imagine taking a DNA test hoping to locate a long-lost ancestor, only to discover that your children share more in common with the mailman than you do. That wasn't how I anticipated to feel. It all began with a straightforward hospital visit. My wife and I have been married for nearly 10 years and have always had a solid bond. We owned a business together, and I was in charge of the finances and behind-the-scenes operations while she handled the front. We also shared caring for our two boys, aged 2 and 5. She was the stricter parent, while I was the fun one. Everything looked great. But one small act, donating blood, changed everything. I had no idea what my blood type was until I got my donor card, which stated that I was type O. That felt weird because I knew my son's blood types, A and B. My wife's blood type is AB, therefore it didn't add up. That's when questions started to surface. I attempted to remember what I had learned in high school biology. If I had type O blood, it didn't make sense that my older kid had type AB. I believed I was mistaken, so I conducted some investigation. Type O blood lacks A and B antigens, but type AB blood does. As a result, if one parent had either A or B antigens, I might not have inherited anything. I double-checked, hoping to find a mistake. It hit me hard. The son I'd reared and loved for 5 years was not my own son. I considered every possible explanation. Perhaps I misinterpreted my wife's blood type, or there was a mix-up. Once the disbelief wore off, I understood I needed a paternity test to be certain. I researched other possibilities and realized that I could get a home paternity test. It appeared exact enough for my requirements but would not stand up in court. I wasn't considering legal action or divorce, just the truth. I ordered 2 tests just in case. If one son wasn't mine, maybe neither was. I brought the tests home, concealed them in my laptop bag, and pretended everything was fine. My wife kissed my cheek like nothing had happened. For me, however, everything had already changed. I was torn between guilt and treason. On the one hand, I was concealing something from my wife. On the other, I felt my entire existence was a lie. I kept things casual, kissed her on the forehead, and returned to supper as if nothing had happened, but my mind was racing with the paternity tests stashed upstairs. When she went out to run errands the following weekend, I took advantage of the opportunity. I conducted a game with the youngsters in which we pretended to be conducting a scientific experiment. They were eager to participate, and I had the samples swabbed and mailed. After that, all I had to do was wait. My hands shook as I received the results. The first conclusion was that he was not mine. The second thing is the same. I believed I was prepared, yet nothing could stop my anguish. It seemed like a piece of my life had been torn, and I'd never get it back. I've known the results for a few days, but have yet to confront my wife. She understands something is wrong. I can't eat or talk to her, and even playing with the kids feels strange now. They aren't my children, and I have no idea who their father is. Was it one person or more? The questions are overwhelming, and the grief has not subsided. I know I'll have to deal with this soon, but I'm unsure where to start. Imagine coming to donate blood and realizing that you've been parenting other people's children. The universe seems to have a strange sense of humor. Understandably, you feel lost right now. You've devoted your life to your family, your business, and being the greatest father you can be, only to have your entire world turned upside down instantly. While I didn't think I was in danger of hurting myself or others, I could feel myself sinking into a dark place. I began treatment, and it is helping me break away from the harmful thought habits that had formed. I couldn't stay there forever, resenting her. So I approached her. I told her we needed to chat and sat her at the dinner table. I slipped my phone across the table to show her the paternity test results. "What's this?" she inquired, chuckling awkwardly. I tried to be the larger person, but her response frustrated me. I ignored her laughter and said, "These are the results of a paternity test. I know the boys aren't mine." She passed the phone back to me, still laughing, arguing that paternity tests can be inaccurate and result in false positives, but I had no doubts about the results. With their blood types, they were not my children. Her reaction validated any remaining misgivings I may have had. If I were truly the father, I apologize. It was a mistake, and I've regretted it every day. I explained how I became concerned, mentioning that it was biologically impossible for us to conceive a type AB child. She listened quietly and remained silent even after I finished speaking. I had hoped for a last-minute outrageous explanation, but there it was. I wouldn't say I liked having to be proven correct when I would have given anything for a different result. I once went from having 2 children to not having any. It took everything I had not to cry, but she couldn't hold back. Her voice broke as she revealed that it all started when I worked late nights. She claimed that I was always worried and exhausted when I got home, and she was lonely. She eventually began calling a guy at work when I wasn't present, and they began dating. I asked her how many times they'd slept together, and she buried her head in her hands, admitting that it had been going on for about 3 years and had only stopped when she got pregnant the second time. "Who is he?" I queried, my voice strong despite the turmoil inside. "It doesn't matter who he is. You are their real father," she asserted. "That's why I never informed you. You've always been their true father." In retrospect, her remarks were almost laughable, but not in a good way. I made it abundantly clear that she had no right to decide. I made a difficult and painful choice on my own. I told her it was her fault I was in this situation, and all I wanted was to know their biological father in case they divorced. It disturbed me. Did she really think I wanted to stay with a woman who purposefully misrepresented another man's children as mine, a woman who had betrayed me most fundamentally? I had a 3-year romantic relationship with a coworker. She gazed at me and said, "But you love them." I took a deep breath and told her that the fact that I loved them did not excuse her actions. She had stolen my opportunity to start my own family, and I could never forgive her for it. Her eyes continued to flood up with tears, but I remained unaffected. I had not hurt her, and I had even tried to make things easier for her. I contacted her after gathering all of the facts. I did not accuse her arbitrarily. I attempted to approach her civilly. If anyone should have cried, it would have been me. As she cried, she kept mentioning the kids, arguing that I was their true father and that I could not forsake them. I told her I needed time to figure out how I would handle this. Over the next 3 days, I researched the divorce process and contacted a lawyer. I knew this divorce would be difficult, especially given the children involved, but I couldn't walk away. I resolved to do what was best for the boys and my peace of mind. Even if they weren't my biological children, they didn't deserve to be punished for their mother's infidelity. I eventually decided to be a part of the boys' lives. It was difficult. I pondered it for many restless nights. Despite everything, I had been their father for years in every way that mattered. They looked up to me, came to me for love and support, and completely trusted me. They did not know my plight or how their mother had put us in this dreadful situation. I couldn't abandon them because of her imperfections. I appreciate that many of you would disagree with my decision, but I thought long and hard about it and couldn't leave those kids. I had agreed to keep the divorce amicable. I wanted to be there in my children's lives and have a positive relationship with their mother. However, my opinion changed after witnessing how she responded when she was issued with divorce papers. She approached me and claimed I was tearing our family apart. She looked at me harshly as if I were the one being unfair. I couldn't believe what I'd heard. I had the right to walk away from her and the kids. I had been attempting to keep things normal at home so that we could gently break the news to the kids. I attempted to love the boys like always, hoping they would not notice anything was wrong. However, I was the one tearing the family apart. At that time, I knew I had gone too light on her. I tried to make things easy for her and the kids, but she regarded it as a sign of weakness. Even after confirming her adultery, I tried not to harbor animosity toward her. It was difficult because I'd been deceived and lied to, but I tried. But she no longer deserved such tenderness. I informed her that we were no longer a single family, but two families raising the same children. I made it clear that I planned to make the divorce terrible for her. I would battle for custody with her. I would fight against alimony. Then I told her I would take over her business, which she valued beyond all else. It was her intention to hand it down to the children one day, and I vowed to deprive her of it in the same way she had robbed me of mine. Her sobbing had no effect on me. I tried doing things simply, but she chose to betray me, try to make me feel guilty. I was ready to battle for my rights, even if it meant flattening her. If she wanted to play the victim, I'd make her cry. She was not going to get out of this unscathed. I'd been the upbeat guy for a long time, but it hadn't paid off. We had built the firm together, but there was always an unspoken understanding that she owned it. However, my name was on several of the documents alongside hers. I had also invested the majority of the money in it. My lawyer advised me that, while claiming the entire business would be tough, I had a strong case for at least half of it. 50% was enough. I planned to take over her business or completely destroy it. Regardless, I did not want her to have it. They became harsh as we progressed through the divorce proceedings. She and her lawyer devised a strategy to make me the villain. Fortunately for me, it looked like she did not have enough money to engage a good lawyer, as the one she hired was inadequate. His first clever thought was to exaggerate the story that I was abandoning my children. That strategy failed quickly because I was actively fighting for custody even though the boys were not biologically mine. My attorney was a shark. I told him I intended to take her apart during the divorce, and he didn't disappoint. I could not grasp all the legal jargon, but the results spoke for themselves. Ultimately, I bought 55% of the company, giving me a controlling position. That was a good start, but it did not satisfy me. It did not change much because I had always been in charge of the company. I could fire her and keep the company running, but she'd continue to gain from my work. I needed to get rid of it entirely. Taking the business from her was fulfilling, but I had to accept that I compromised my children's future. It wasn't easy to accept, but I decided to sell the firm. I planned to use the money to start a new business for them. I couldn't give their mother the joy of achieving her aim after what she'd done to me. First, I have to give myself credit for seeking therapy and not letting the incident drive me into a negative spiral. That in itself was a huge victory. Hearing her say, "I'm sorry, it was a mistake," and then confessing to 3 years of betrayal was clearly more than just a mistake. Taking control of the firm and deciding to sell it was the right move, and I'm proud of that decision. It was something she cherished and planned to pass down, but now I'm starting over for myself and my children. I'm especially proud that I never abandoned them. Even though I'm not their biological father, I've always been their dad, and they are lucky to have me in their lives. That responsibility is something I've embraced fully. Now for an update. Since the divorce was finalized, things have improved for me. Therapy has been instrumental in helping me adjust to my new life, and I'm grateful to still have my kids. The company is no longer in business. I liquidated it as quickly as possible. Both she and I made a good living from it, but I invested half of my earnings in a new company that's already on the path to success. When the time comes, I plan to hand this new firm over to my boys. It brings me comfort to know that I will be the one providing them with a stable future, not her. I've also established a strict no-contact policy with my ex-wife. We only talk when there's something to do with the kids, but that hasn't stopped her from persuading me to take her back. She hasn't been doing well since losing her business and dealing with the financial consequences of the divorce. She occasionally calls me unexpectedly, pretending to inquire about the kids before asking personal questions like whether I have restarted dating. I always say just enough to make her think I'm doing fine. She finally progressed from dropping subtle hints to overtly begging us to reconcile. She occasionally calls me unexpectedly, pretending to inquire about the kids before asking personal questions like whether I have restarted dating. I always say just enough to make her think I'm doing fine. The last time she let herself in while dropping off the kids, she grabbed my hand and tried to coax me into the bedroom so we could talk privately. I communicated my dissatisfaction and quietly informed her that she was embarrassing herself. I tried gently nudging her out the door, but she fought and begged for another chance. She said we worked well together as parents and business partners. Then she suggested I have biological children of my own. I was floored. She offered me additional children, children who would truly be mine, as if that was supposed to solve anything. They are not a bargaining chip she may use to make up for her mistakes. I told her that and expressed my anger with her at the moment. I wanted to raise, not replace, the sons I had grown to adore. Her actions had already cost me the ability to build an honest and loving family, and there was nothing she could do to reverse that. If I decide to have biological children, they will not be with her. I went over to ensure the kids weren't hearing and told her not to enter the house again unless I welcomed her. She began crying again. Isn't it interesting how kids weep when they don't get their way? I assume she received the message because she hasn't attempted anything similar since. When she comes around, she looks at the floor and does not meet my sight. She rarely talks longer than required. I'm sure she'll try again sometime, but it won't be very sensible. I've completely moved on from her, and my life is much better. My ex-wife's attempts at reconciliation are plainly motivated by desperation rather than genuine regret. Now that she has lost her safety net and sees me succeeding, starting a new business and moving on with my life, she is attempting to rebuild her own. It's almost odd seeing how the dynamics have changed. When I confronted her with the truth about the children, I expected any reaction, but I never expected her to play the victim while ignoring the harm she had caused. The way she held on to our history, indicating that we could be family again, appeared deceitful, offering me biological children as a means of repairing everything. It wasn't obvious. Children are not bargaining chips or problem solvers. They are individuals seeking love and security. Throughout all, I've learned that I need to prioritize what genuinely matters: the boys. They've been my world, and I've dedicated myself to becoming the parent they need. Despite not being their biological father, I've been there for every moment, every skinned knee, bedtime story, and shared laugh. I can't replace the family I anticipated having, but I can create something new and meaningful with them. I've set limits and agreed on a no-contact policy with my ex. The few times we've spoken since the divorce, I've made it obvious that her attempts to reconnect would fail unless they are founded on respect for what we had and lost. Whenever she brings up the past, I remind her that my concentration is on the future. She's understanding that my life is moving forward without her, and it's a relief to have that burden lifted. The boys deserve a safe and loving future, and I plan to provide it. I used half of the business sale to start something new that I hope to leave for them one day. Knowing that I'm shaping their future without betrayal offers me peace of mind. Finally, this incident taught me a great deal about resilience, the importance of mental health, and the genuine meaning of family. I'm grateful for the therapy that helped me overcome this difficult time. I emerged stronger, more focused, and determined to live a life of love and honesty. My ex may try again sometime, but I refuse to be lured back into her web of manipulation. I've moved on, and my life is already much better. This is a new chapter, and I'm determined to make it the finest yet for me and the boys. This trip highlighted the importance of love, trust, and sticking to one's values. While the betrayal was terrible, it resulted in a fresh start, teaching me that true family is built on love and dedication, not blood. Moving forward, I recognize the importance of valuing oneself and recognizing that no one should accept being a fallback. I hope my story inspires others going through similar hardships to find their inner strength and live a happier, healthier life. I appreciate you taking the time to hear my story. If you like it or found it informative, please click the subscribe button for future updates and information. Your sponsorship allows me to keep sharing valuable experiences. See you in the next video and take care.